He is now going to go through the process of getting arrested. And I think that that is going to be much more jarring for him than I think people realize. This is somebody who has spent more than 4 decades trying to avoid being arrested or being indicted. And so this is a really scary moment for him, despite whatever he says.
Yes, according to Maggie Haberman, behind the scenes, Donald Trump is incredibly scared, but the image that he's putting forward, especially on social media, is designed to give you a very different impression. I'm gonna classify it as rage, really. You might not have seen his initial messages after the 34 indictments were announced. He said, "These thugs and radical left monsters have just indicated the 45th president of the United States. This is an attack on our country, the likes of which has never been seen before. Forget Pearl Harbor, that was nothing." I'm kidding, I added that part. And he says, of course, that because he's now been indicted, the US is a third world nation. I thought we were a third world nation for like 20 different reasons he's already talked about over the last year. So he said that, and he's been reposting just every single second of Fox News and those sorts of sites over the last day or so. He also asked a question, I guess he got distracted, like kind of a squirrel moment where he just asked, "Where's Hunter?" No word on if he ever got an answer or what the hell that has to do with his legal troubles, but it's what he's thinking about at this point. Now, in the next couple of days, specifically as we approach Tuesday, no word on what he'll be thinking about then. I assume that the leaks will start over the weekend, but it will be Tuesday when he will actually be hauled before court unless he decides to hunker down in a basement of Mar-a-Lago or something. He will be fingerprinted, he will have a mugshot taken, although I know everyone is expecting now that we're just necessarily gonna get that. I do not believe that New York law generally leads to the release of the mugshot. It could be leaked, sometimes they are, but we won't necessarily have those. What we will have come Tuesday is details of what those 34 indictments actually include, and we'll have a much better idea of the timeline going forward.
All right, I have a confession, and you guys are not gonna be surprised by my confession. I kind of love that Trump is scared, and I told you he would be. Like, people put way too much strategy into Donald Trump's head. There's only 2 brain cells bumping around there. They hardly ever meet. And whenever they do, it's always about marketing and being in the spotlight and making his case in the most aggressive way possible. And that has served him well. But that's all he's got. He's a one-trick pony. And he's not like, oh, I'd love to be indicted to because I'm a master strategist and rook to bishop 3 gets me. No, he's like Haberman said, his whole life he's been a criminal. Well, she didn't say that, but I'm saying it. And for 4 decades he's been trying to avoid the law. And he talks like a mobster. He says, we don't like the rats. We don't like the snitches. I mean, he says stuff like that. By the way, he also said, who takes the 5th Amendment? People who are guilty. Then he took the 5th Amendment like 400 times in one of these cases. Okay, so you get an overall sense of it. But like a lot of these bullies and fake tough guys, the minute he's in trouble, remember when there was just the protests around, Black Lives Matter protests around the White House, he went and hid in the bunker. He's a grade A coward. Right, it's just that no one's ever punched him back in the nose. And so now that he got, grazed, or the thought that he might have to actually face some consequences, he's like, and everybody from inside's like, well, some of them say he's scared, some of them say he's angry. All of them talk about he's going through a lot of emotions right now. This is your tough guy, MAGA, enjoy.
Yeah, and it's the great equalizer for someone who has never had to play on the level playing field, right? Is that he is now going to court. He's now going to be judged not on what kind of president he is, what kind of candidate he is, what he's saying, how he's making fun of his opponents. He's gonna be judged on the law, and there are 34 counts against him, which also means that there's a lot that none of us know except the people that are there, because no one was expecting this many counts. And based on what we do know and what we have read and the alleged allegations and the things that Michael Cohen has said publicly and whatever has been leaked, we didn't know 34 counts worth of things. So that means this is probably worse. And I think that's informing John and Cenk why he is more scared than you would imagine this sort of behemoth to be.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm obviously not a lawyer. I think everybody knows that at first glance. But they did
Actually,
split.
you look like a lawyer.
Yeah, today you kind of do. Yeah.
Okay, well, then maybe if you've been involved in a personal injury or rideshare accident. Anyway, I live too close to LAX. So anyway, look, when he paid back Michael Cohen, they split it up into a bunch of different payments. Is it possible that maybe it's for each time they did that, each of those is a falsification of business records? I'm not sure. We do know that hush money payments are not illegal in New York for some reason. Seems like the sort of thing you'd set up if you were wealthy and you were in charge. But Trump could be charged with falsifying the business records of the Trump organization, mislabeling basically what they're intended to accomplish. They were intended to accomplish to pay back Michael Cohen for taking out a home equity loan to pay off Stormy Daniels. Falsifying business records is just a misdemeanor. Again, it's the way you'd set it up if you were in charge, wouldn't you, if you were powerful? But his attorney says that despite the idea that maybe he could reach some sort of plea agreement or something like that, he is not gonna be doing that. He's not gonna be admitting any guilt whatsoever. Take a look.
Do you expect this to go to trial? Do you see any scenario in which you or the former president would take a plea deal?
Zero. First of all, I'm not taking a plea deal to anything, but President Trump will not take a plea deal in this case. It's not going to happen. There's no crime. I don't know if it's going to make the trial because we have substantial legal challenges that we have to front before we get to that point.
So look, in theory, I guess they could reach some sort of plea deal if that's something that Alvin Bragg and they're interested in. I don't know that it is. I haven't heard them talk about it, but that might potentially release this weight from his shoulders. It wouldn't be any help in the other, impending lawsuits, whether it's, the rape lawsuit that's gonna be coming up very soon, the possibility that indictments could come down from Fulton County. And it would, in theory, if you cared about whether a politician had committed crimes, it would reassure some of his followers that it wasn't that serious. I don't know how many of them actually care. Donald Trump seems to relish the idea that he could still beat Ron DeSantis while facing these sorts of charges. Again, I don't think that he actually wants to go to prison or anything like that. But I wonder, is he scared enough to admit guilt, which he definitely doesn't want to do, but has been forced to do in lawsuits in the past, civil lawsuits?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point that he does at some point sometimes cut bait, right? So both on Trump University and Trump Charity, both enormous scams where he had to pay tens of millions of dollars in fines and admit guilt. He did. He was like, oh, okay, you caught me. It was like almost like the kid with his hand in the cookie jar. He's like, no, it's not a fake charity. No. Oh, you've got all the evidence? Okay, fine, it is. What do I do? Okay, do I get spanked? Do I go to detention? What do I do, right? And so he had to pay it. By the way, guys, I mean, look, this is my main point overall anyway. MAGA, look, I understand how it started, right? You guys wanted someone to drain the swamp. You hate the establishment, you're not wrong, they are lying to you. So you got really mad and you wanted to find someone who would tell the establishment off. But how it's going is, you're now defending a guy who clearly broke the law in like half a dozen ways because he was the former president, and you're saying the former president, an elite, should not be held to the same standards as the rest of us.
Yep.
That's the exact opposite of where you started. So get back on course, right? Like, you actually, the Republicans in 1,000 different ways could kick the Democrats' ass if they actually just stuck with their anti-corruption messaging, right? And I don't mean the Republican politicians, they're awful. They're more corrupt than the Democrats are. But you guys found someone who would say the words drain the swamp. Good instinct, right? Can you please pick a non-crook? So look, our problem on the left is we don't have anyone with courage to actually take on the establishment. Every time the media yells at them, or Pelosi or Biden yells at them, they got to rush out and get those diapers we're going to talk about later in the show, okay? And they get so nervous. Oh my God, what if cable news says mean things about me? You guys, on the other hand, you don't have that problem. You say anything you want, right? But you have the problem if you constantly pick con men, right? This guy's like legendary. He makes P.T. Barnum look like child's play. He's the greatest con man in American history. That's another compliment I can give Donald Trump. Of course he slept with her, you know that. Of course he did the hush money payments, you know that. Of course it breaks campaign finance laws, you know that. Funneling $420,000 back to Michael Cohen, he says he went to prison for it, that's his co-conspirator. He says, yeah, of course that wasn't for legal expenses. It was to pay off Stormy Daniels. and it's on tape. You all know he did it, and your only fallback position is, yeah, but Democrats do it too. Hey, listen, if you got a case of a Democrat breaking the law, and there are many, I'm gonna be on your work. The progressives are gonna be on your side. We don't want them. We don't want the crooks. The establishment Democrats are a different story. That's their problem, not my problem, okay? But I'm asking everybody, I know it's impossible to be honest. No, we constantly have to pick teams and say, no, my guy's right, come hell or high water. No, he isn't right. He definitely broke these laws. And guys, if you falsified your business records, if you're a small business owner, you'd be in a world of hurt, right? And here now everybody's arguing, nope, former president shouldn't be held accountable. Absurd.
Right, I mean, it is absurd, and it's something we can't understand, right? Why do all these people still come to his defense when this happens? Why can't they see through this? Well, there's a hold that he has on a segment of people that is cult-like, and when you follow a leader in a cult-like way, you do not see the flaws of that person implicitly. I mean, that's why you're following that person, and their flaws are generally that they're leading a cult. So I think that's why this happens. I think in Congress, and we'll probably talk about this later, I think, but there's this adherence to the fact that we have a gerrymandered Congress that has like 10 swing seats in it, and people are going to come to Donald Trump's defense because they know that it does nothing to them but help them, and it can only hurt them not to because their districts are so far in one direction or another. I think that this guy, Trump, is now thinking he's scared because it's real now. He's got this because it's real. I think that Fulton County is going to come, and I think it's going to come soon. I think January 6th is going to follow. I think there's going to be there may be a case in that rape case. So there is more to this, and I think that's why he might be beginning to be scared. And I don't know where the breaking point is. I don't know where people wander away from this guy. And I think that's the what.
Well, is it with the second set of charges, the third set of charges, or the third set of charges come out? He's now facing campaign finance, Fulton County, January 6th, possibly the rape as well. And they're still doing monologues about how this is just the deep state.
But there isn't a standard bearer in that party other than Donald Trump now that can come in and say, look, enough is enough, right? If Ted Cruz says that, what is that going to change? If Josh Hawley says it, what's that going to change? If Mitt Romney has been saying it. So there isn't this magic person, and it's not Kevin McCarthy because he is barely the speaker.
It doesn't appear to be Ron DeSantis.
And it's not Ron DeSantis. But I personally don't think Ron DeSantis is even going to run for president, but that's another question for another time. He could become that if this thing just starts to fall like a house of cards. But I honestly don't know what can change this trajectory other than just people accepting the fact that he's got this 30% or whatever it is and work against him from there. But there's not a voice that says, okay, that's enough, right?
There's only one way to beat Donald Trump, and that's on electability. Because the whole point of the Republican base is to own the libs. And they love Trump because he's really good in their mind at owning the libs. But if you know he's going to lose and not be able to own the libs, well, that's the one reason you might vote against him.
But what's complicated is you're right, electability. But his electability, someone's electability and his flawed electability, someone else's electability hinges on the people that do support him coming out for someone else.
Yeah, well, so look, last thing here, I think in this regard. So number one, if it was just this case, he's gonna fight it tooth and nail with 1,000 lawyers, and his main thing is he wants to get off on a technicality on the statute of limitations and how the state and federal charges intermingle. No one thinks he didn't do it. Everybody knows he did it. Even if you're MAGA, you know he did it, right? You're just pissed that they didn't put Hillary Clinton in jail too, right? So, but could he get off on that technicality and survive this case? Absolutely, he could survive it, and even if he didn't get off on the technicality, he might be able to win from prison if it's just this case. But that Georgia case is coming, right? And in that case, he said, "Find me votes" to a guy who told him there are no votes for you. He said, "Find me more votes." Now you could say, "Hey, well, look, maybe that's vague enough that he skirts on that too." Then you got the Jack Smith, the special counsel at the federal level, who's investigating both the documents that he brought to Mar-a-Lago and January 6th. January 6th to me is the most important one. You've got emails saying, talking about fake electors, how they want to use fake electors. But again, it's a super hard thing to prove that he organized a coup. But now there's 3 cases. Then the document case.
I forgot about the documents.
The documents is crystal clear. crystal clear, all the way up to nuclear secrets, totally unguarded, did not give them over, hid them over and over again. Again, any normal person, if you're a bureaucrat within the FBI, the CIA, NSA, etc., and you did 10% of what Trump did, you'd be facing a severe sentence, very severe.
The documents case was a little bit emasculated by the fact that everybody except the National Archives had classified documents. I mean,
but it's not though. That's just in the court of public opinion.
But no, it's not just in the court of public opinion, because you're right. That's my tendency to say that too. But the pursuit of it becomes more complicated by it, even though Trump's lawyers fought back at it. His case is so different from Mike Pence's and Joe Biden's and anyone else who had these documents. But the fighting back again, it's a more complicated thing.
So look, that all depends on only one person, Jack Smith, who's the special counsel, okay? Because if it was Merrick Garland, he wouldn't pursue it under penalty of law. Michael makes a great point. It's not kind of the point you're making, but I'll make this one. Merrick Garland, knowing that Biden did 5% of what Trump did, would never pursue Trump. Never on that charge, because he'd be so worried that they'd go after Biden afterwards, right? But Jack Smith, who knows, maybe he's a principled guy and goes, I don't care if you go after Biden and Pence and everybody else. Yeah. No, he definitely broke the law. But the overall point is there are at least 4 credible cases, and at least 2 of them will be brought forward and 1 already has been, right? And so my guess is 3 or 4 of them are going to be brought forward.
And I think soon. I think Fulton County, this is a hunch, I think Fulton County is coming soon.
Yeah, so then all that someone has to do, but it's a very tall order for politicians. But you would need someone who is like Trump to come out there on the Republican Party, forget Democrats, because they're never going to do it and they're not relevant in this stage. Republican to come out and go, look guys, this guy lost to Biden. Biden could barely walk, he's barely awake. And he lost to Biden, right? And now he's like in prison or something in 3 or 4 different cases. What, are we gonna run this election from a prison cell in Georgia or Manhattan? No, let's win. Okay, we'll help Donald Trump. Let's all help him. Let's contribute to his legal defense. And this is outrageous. And they're coming after all of us. But guys, we got to win the goddamn election, okay? Otherwise, it's gonna be Sleepy Joe. But that'll work. That'll work.
Question,
but no one has that strength.
Right, that's what I was saying. Who is the person? It's not even a question. Who that could have that strength would make it work? That's what I'm saying. I don't think the person exists. I think that it's not a question of strength. I don't think there's a voice, no matter how strong, that could move people yet.
I mean, Tucker Carlson is like the single watched cable news guy, and he is just desperate to get the Trump fans to love him once again after those texts came out. They're all just so scared. And I don't think it is one voice. I think it's they meet in a smoke-filled room and they all come out guns blazing. I think that if they all did it at the same time, backing each other up so that they know that they're not the one person that's gonna stick their head up and have it be blown off, then I think they could do something. If all of the politicians and all of the pundits and all of the hosts came out, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. All right, I lied, super last thing. Guys, think about that, man. Isn't that so damning of our entire political system? We can't find one strong person in the whole country, in the whole goddamn country. On the Republican side, DeSantis is supposed to be tough. Tough? He's like the Puxatawny Phil. Okay, he's like, am I gonna see my shadow? Am I gonna see my shadow? You coward, get out there and fight like a man. But he's not going to, because he isn't. He's a coward. All Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, all these people, cowards. They're all cowards. So not one person can stand up to Donald Trump and bully him back. That's amazing. And on the Democratic side, even worse. So all of the country can be saved by just one strong person saying the truth, and I can't find him.
I think John's theory is better than your theory and probably mine, because we've seen what's happened to the lonely voice in the crowd against Donald Trump. I mean, why would anybody do it? It hasn't proven successful for anybody. 8 out of the 10 people.
You know why strong people do what they do? Because they're strong.
Right, but strong people have. I mean, there have been voices against this president within his own party, and they haven't been the kind of voices that you need, because that's what I was saying earlier. I don't know who that person is. I don't know who the person is that steps forward and does that and can have success with it. The people that have done it thus far haven't been successful. So that's
Christie came out and said under no circumstances supporting, but he's not going to move millions.
No,
or
he's not.
Like that.
I mean, that's that. And look what look what he was. Right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. He can't mobilize people. He can stop them from crossing a bridge, but he can't get them across the bridge.
Somebody like, and I'm not saying that this, but somebody like Mike Pompeo, somebody who worked with and for him, somebody who is smart, and so I'm not saying Mike Pompeo, somebody who came from his side and has a lot of people that respect him.
Yeah.
I don't. And I'm not. Mike Pompeo is not that person, by the way, because I don't think that would A, ever happen, and B, that he would be able to move mountains. You know.
You have to find someone who can mock him, who's strong enough to mock him. Christie and all the others have to pick themselves off the ground before they can go and fight him. They're so scared. Like Christie thinks like, oh, I'm getting him. Are you? No, the way you get him is mock him, and say, God damn it, man, when are you gonna stop costing us elections? All right, step aside already and let a man handle this. You see what I just did there? That would piss off liberals, right? That's how a Republican should talk if they want to fight against Donald Trump. But they're like, oh,
Republicans can't even oust George Santos. I mean,
I know, right?
So like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, they're all cowards. Okay.
Yeah. It turns out that being a strong man is the only character that George Santos isn't willing to play.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.